So I know in my first video, we dealt with something big, just because kind of getting that idea out there that I know words like revival are scary sometimes because it feels like a big, audacious goal, but it's something that we can do. More importantly, something we need to do, especially when we look at not just what God's calling us to, but the needs in the world, and then the promises in Scripture that we have of how God will be there for us. He'll never forsake us. How He's not given us a spirit of fear. All these things. So kind of want to take a different perspective today and talking about revival and kind of this part two of who knows how many parts, and look at the word loneliness, because I think this has a big eye-opening thing for us in realizing that some of these big goals like revival may not be as hard as we think. And I'll start by reading a quote by Mother Teresa, and some of you have kind of probably heard this quote in different forms and different fashions. But she says, the greatest disease in the West today is not TB or leprosy. It is being unwanted, unloved, and uncared for. We can cure physical diseases with medicine, but the only cure for loneliness, despair, and hopelessness is love. There are many in the world who are dying for a piece of bread, but there are many more dying for a little love. The poverty in the West is a different kind of poverty. It's not only a poverty of loneliness, but also spirituality. There's a hunger for love, and there's a hunger for God. And I think about the fact that one of the things and biggest things we're going to have to deal with if we think about revival is, is dealing with people and being there for people who are lonely and are hurting. But I think it's also in realizing that simple act of going and doing life with someone, building community and building a relationship with them, is what's going to spark revival. I think people, adults and students especially, they're just looking for someone to love them. They're looking for someone to care for them. And if you can train your leaders to really invest in kids and to build those relationships and mentor and do life with them, to go above and beyond, to be at events, to invite them for, errands to the grocery store and to wash the car, those little real life discipleship moments. But more importantly, if you can train your students, to be aware of a new kid who walks in the room, to see that kid at school who might be hurting, not just the kid who sits by themselves in the cafeteria and reaching out in that form or fashion, because I know we use that illustration a lot. But also I'm thinking about, maybe the valedictorian or the star athlete too, who on the surface seems to have it all together, but deep down they're hurting and struggling. Because God's called us to love the world. So that means all people. It means those people who are isolated and those people who seem to maybe have it all together. It means people who don't look like us, people who don't like us, people who treat us poorly. Because I think deep down, all people are struggling with a sense of loneliness, especially, as we become more tied to our devices and more tied to technology and social media, and we lack those real relationships. But also, as things become more divisive and heated, and there's these hurtful words flying around the world, where I think people more and more are kind of trying to decide, I don't know where I fit in all this anymore. Because I hear them saying that, and I don't think I want to be with them, but now who am I going to be with? And so there's a sense of loneliness. So we have this opportunity we desperately need to work through. Because in doing that, in showing love, I think we feel that hunger for love. And then out of that, there's going to be a hunger for God, because we are able to show people this is the void that has been in your life. To be able to do life with someone in community the way God's called us to, but more importantly, to receive salvation and to fill that void. The only thing that can truly fill that void of loneliness being Christ. And so we do that. And then I think that starts a wildfire revival. The other thing that happens is when we think about a lot of the other big sins, even like the one I talked about last time of human trafficking, a lot of times it starts with loneliness. I think, a lot of times about, teens who struggle with different addictions. It started with some loneliness. Sometimes it's not just you're trying to fill a void, but it's just you fall into temptation because no one was there to pick you up. And so I think not only by, meeting this need of loneliness by showing people love and overcoming that big giant in the world of loneliness, do we see lives change? But then I think we also start to see other things change because people don't fall into these other traps and these other temptations because they have someone loving them and doing life with them. So I want you to think about your ministry. What are you doing to actively address this need of loneliness? Because I think if you can do that through retraining your leaders and retraining and discipling your students to truly reach out to not just people that walk in the door, but people outside the walls of the church, I think you're going to see a massive difference in your community. I think sparks of revival will fly like you never could have imagined just by the simple act of loving people and living relationships with them, and then through that meeting needs and doing life together. I look forward to hearing how that works for you, what's happening. If you've already seen this happen, I'd love to talk about the changes you've made and the things you've done. So, just let us know, comment, subscribe. We're going to keep doing this series on revival. We're working on some other creative things and some other options. Got some other big announcements coming up soon with this idea of revival and not survival. And so we're excited about it. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk soon.